Hi, how you guys doing? It's Mrs. Newly. So because we're at home now, we didn't have a chance to finish our read aloud book, and so the next few videos are going to be me reading for 10 minutes, our usual 10 minutes, and until we finish this book. So if you are done with all your assignments, or even if you're not done with all your assignments and you just need a break and you want to listen to our story, please go ahead and enjoy this video and the videos that follow. All right, let's get started.
All right, I'm going to back up a little bit because it's been a while since we've read our story, and this will kind of set the scene for where we are in our book, The Magician's Nephew. Please, Mr. Lion, Aslan, sir, said Diggory, may I, please, will you give me some magic fruit of this country to make mother well? He had been desperately hoping that the lion would say yes, and he had been horribly afraid that it might say no, but he was taken aback when it did neither. "This is the boy," said Aslan, looking not at Diggory but at his counselors. "This is the boy who did it." "Oh dear," thought Diggory, "what have I done now?" "Son of Adam," said the lion, "there is an evil witch abroad in my new land of Narnia. Tell these good beasts how she came to be here." A dozen different things that he might have said flashed through Diggory's mind, but he had the sense to say nothing except the exact truth. "I brought her, Aslan," he answered in a low voice. "For what purpose?" "I wanted to get her out of my own world, back into her own. I thought I was taking her back to her own place." "How came she to be in your world, son of Adam?" By magic?" The lion said nothing, and Diggory knew that he had not told enough. "It was my uncle, Aslan," he said. "He sent us out of our own world by magic rings. At least I had to go because he sent Polly first, and then we met the witch in a place called Charn, and she just held on to us when—" "You met the witch?" said Aslan in a low voice, which had the threat of a growl in it. "She woke up," said Diggory wretchedly, "and then," turning very white, I woke her, because I wanted to know what would happen if I struck a bell. Polly didn't want to. It wasn't her fault. I fought her. I know I shouldn't have. I think I was a bit enchanted by the writing under the bell." "Do you?" asked Aslan, still speaking very low and deep. "No," said Diggory. "I see now that I wasn't. I was only pretending." There was a long pause, and Diggory was thinking all the time, "I've spoiled everything. There's no chance of getting anything from Mother now." When the lion spoke again, it was not to Diggory. Sorry, my phone cut out. When the lion spoke again, it was not to Diggory. "You see, friends," he said, "that before the new clean world I gave you is 7 hours old, a force of evil has already entered it, waked and brought hither by this son of Adam." The beast, even Strawberry, all turned their eyes on Diggory, till he felt that he wished the ground would swallow him up. "But do not be cast down," said Aslan, still speaking to the beasts. "Evil will come of that evil, but it is still a long way off, and I will see to it that the worst falls upon myself. In the meantime, let us take such order that for many 100 years yet this shall be a merry land in a merry world. And as Adam's race has done the harm, Adam's race shall help to heal it. Draw near, you other two." The last words were spoken to Polly and the cabby, who had now arrived. Polly, all eyes and mouth, was staring at Aslan, and holding the cabby's hand rather tightly. The cabby gave one glance at the lion, and took off his bowler hat. No one had yet seen him without it. When it was off, he looked younger and nicer and more like a countryman and less like a London cabbyman. "Son," said Aslan to the cabby, "I have known you long. Do you know me?" "Well, no, sir," said the cabby, "leastways not in an ordinary manner of speaking. Yet I feel somehow, if I may make so free, as how we've met before." "It is well," said the lion. "You know better than you think you know, and you shall live to know me better yet. How does this land please you?" "It is a fair treat, sir," said the cabby. "Would you like to live here always?" "Well, you see, sir, I'm a married man," said the cabby. "If my wife was here, neither of us would ever want to go back to London, I reckon. We're both country folks, really." Aslan threw up his shaggy head, opened his mouth, and uttered a long single note. Not very loud, but full of power. Polly's heart jumped in her body when she heard it. She felt sure that it was a call, and that anyone who heard that call would want to obey, and what's more, would be able to obey it, however many worlds and ages lay between. And so, though she was filled with wonder, she was not really astonished or shocked when all of a sudden a young woman with a kind, honest face stepped out of nowhere and stood beside her. Polly knew at once that it was the cabby's wife, fetched out of our world not by any tiresome magic rings, but quickly, simply, and sweetly, as a bird flies to its nest. The young woman had apparently been in the middle of a washing day, for she wore an apron, her sleeves were rolled up to the elbow, and there were soap suds on her hands. If she had had time to put on her good clothes, her best hat had imitation cherries on it, she would have looked dreadful, but as it was, she looked rather nice. Of course she thought she was dreaming. That was why she didn't rush across to her husband and ask him what on earth had happened to them both. But when she looked at the lion, she didn't feel quite sure it was a dream, yet for some reason she did not appear to be very frightened. Then she dropped a little half curtsy, as some country girls still knew how to do in those days. And after that she went and put her hand in the cabby's and stood there looking around her a little shyly. "My children," said Aslan, fixing his eyes on both of them, "you are to be the first king and queen of Narnia." The cabby opened his mouth in astonishment, and his wife turned very red. "You shall rule and name all these creatures, and do justice among them, and protect them from their enemies, and when enemies arise. And enemies will arise, for there is an evil witch in this world." The cabby swallowed hard 2 or 3 times and cleared his throat. "Begging your pardon, sir," he said, "and thanking you very much, I'm sure, which my missus does the same, but I ain't no sort of chap for a job like that. I never had much education, you see." "Well," said Aslan, "can you use a spade and a plough and raise food out of the earth?" "Yes, sir, I could do a bit of that sort of work, being brought up to it, like." "Can you rule these creatures kindly and fairly, remembering that they are not slaves like the dumb beasts of the world you were born in, but talking beasts and free subjects?" "I see that, sir," replied the cabby. "I try to do the square thing by them all. And would you bring up your children and grandchildren to do the same?" "It'd be up to me to try, sir. I'd do my best, wouldn't we, Nellie?" "And you wouldn't have favorites either among your own children or among the other creatures, or let any hold another under its use hardly?" "I never could abide of such things going on, sir, and that's the truth. I'd give 'em what for if I caught 'em at it," said the cabby. All through this conversation his voice was growing slower and richer, more like the country voice he must have had as a boy, and less like the sharp, quick voice of a Cockney. "And if enemies came against the land, for enemies will arise, and there was a war, would you be the first in charge and the last in the retreat?" "Well, sir," said the cabby very slowly, "a chap don't exactly know till he's been tried. I dare say I might turn out ever such a soft 'un. Never did no fighting except with my fists. I'd try, that is. I'd hope I'd try to do my bit." "Then," said Aslan, "you will have done all that a king should do. Your coronation will be held presently, and you and your children and your grandchildren shall be blessed, and some will be kings of Narnia, and others will be kings of Archenland, which lies yonder over the southern mountains. And you, little daughter," here he turned to Polly, "are welcome, Have you forgiven the boy for the violence that he did to you in the hall of images in the desolate palace of a cursed charn? Yes, Aslan, we've made up, said Polly. That's well, said Aslan. And now for the boy himself. Strawberry's Adventure is chapter 12, and I will post that video tomorrow. Thanks for listening. I'll see you guys.